What if the headlines you see today were whispered thousands of years ago? What if the name Iran was never spoken, yet its destiny was already etched into ancient scripture? Hidden in the Bible are prophetic clues about a land once called Persia, a nation described not just as a kingdom, but as a force that would rise, fall, return, and shake the world in ways that still echo today. These are not vague metaphors meant to comfort the faithful. They are unsettling passages that speak of power, conflict, alliances, and judgment. Written long before modern borders, oil, or global politics existed. Some believe these verses are symbolic. Others are convinced they are literal warnings unfolding before our eyes. When you connect the ancient texts with today's events, the similarities become uncomfortable, almost impossible to ignore. Is Iran simply another nation navigating history? Or is it playing a role foretold long ago, moving steadily toward a destiny few dare to confront? And if these prophecies are real, the most disturbing question is not what they say about Iran, but what they imply about what comes next for the world. Stay with me until the end, because the final connection may change how you see current events forever. Now, a question for you to reflect on. A. Biblical references to Persia are symbolic and not meant for today. B. Biblical prophecies about Persia are unfolding in our modern time. Comment A or B below and share your perspective. Have you ever considered how some nations are etched into the very heart of divine prophecy, their destinies intertwining with the unfolding story of humanity and faith today? We embark on a journey to explore one such nation, a land of ancient majesty and enduring significance, Iran, known throughout much of biblical history as Persia. This is not merely a tale of empires, but a spiritual saga revealing how a nation, initially an adversary, could become an unexpected instrument of redemption, a fortress for God's people, and a beacon pointing to the Messiah. From the dawn of time to the twilight of the ages, Persia's story is a testament to the sovereign hand of the Almighty, a narrative that promises both judgment and ultimate restoration. Prepare to witness a destiny unlike any other, a journey through millennia, where every twist and turn reveals a deeper, more profound purpose. Our story begins in the aftermath of the Great Flood, as humanity began to repopulate the earth. Among the sons of Noah, two figures emerged, laying the foundational stones of what we now know as Iran: Madai and Elam. Madai, from whom the Medes descended, and Elam, whose lineage gave rise to the Elamites, settled in the fertile lands east of Mesopotamia, establishing ancient kingdoms that would eventually merge and evolve into the formidable Persian Empire. These weren't distant, obscure tribes. They were integral to the unfolding drama of the ancient world, their presence marked from the earliest biblical accounts. Elam holds a peculiar distinction in Scripture. It was the first nation recorded to attack God's chosen people. In the book of Genesis, we find Abraham, the patriarch, living peacefully when a coalition of kings, led by Chedorlaomer, the king of Elam, launched a devastating raid. They plundered cities, took captives, including Abraham's nephew, Lot. This act of aggression, so early in the sacred narrative, might suggest a predestined animosity. Yet, even in this initial conflict, we see Abraham, empowered by faith, pursue and defeat the invaders, demonstrating God's protective hand over his nascent people. This early encounter, however, was but a prologue, setting the stage for a far more intricate relationship between God and the peoples of Persia. Centuries later, as the mighty empire of Babylon rose to prominence, casting a long shadow over the ancient world, and holding God's people in bitter exile, the prophetic voices began to echo with a surprising message. The prophets Isaiah and Jeremiah, speaking under divine inspiration, declared that God would use the very nations of Elam and Media to bring judgment upon Babylon. Imagine the astonishment. The very peoples who once threatened Abraham would now become instruments in the hand of the Almighty to fulfill his righteous decrees. Jeremiah, in particular, prophesied with vivid detail, "Behold, I will break the bow of Elam, the mainstay of their might. I will bring upon Elam the four winds from the four quarters of heaven, and scatter them toward all those winds. There shall be no nation where the outcasts of Elam will not come." Yet, amidst this declaration of judgment, there was a glimmer of future hope, a promise that even Elam, in the latter days, would experience restoration. This duality, judgment and potential redemption, is a recurring theme in Persia's biblical journey. But the most astonishing chapter in Persia's early destiny unfolded with the rise of a particular pagan king. While Babylon reveled in its seemingly impregnable glory, oblivious to its impending doom, the prophet Daniel, a captive in Babylon, received visions of empires yet to come. He saw a magnificent statue, its head of gold representing Babylon, but after it, a chest and arms of silver would appear, symbolizing an empire that would succeed Babylon, the Medo-Persian Empire. And so it came to pass. As the years of Israel's exile in Babylon drew to a close, a figure of immense historical and prophetic significance emerged: Cyrus the Great. This Persian king, a brilliant strategist and a surprisingly benevolent ruler, swept across the ancient world, conquering vast territories. In 539 BC, he achieved the unthinkable, capturing the seemingly impregnable city of Babylon itself, fulfilling centuries-old prophecies. What happened next was nothing short of miraculous, a direct intervention of divine providence. The God of Israel, whom Cyrus did not yet fully know, had stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia. The prophet Isaiah had even called him by name over a century before his birth, declaring him God's anointed and shepherd, chosen to perform God's pleasure. Cyrus, moved by a decree that he attributed to the Lord, the God of heaven, issued a proclamation that would forever cement Persia's unique place in biblical history. He declared that the Jews were free to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their temple. He even commanded his subjects to provide financial and material support for this monumental task. This was an act unprecedented in ancient history, a pagan king not only releasing captives, but actively facilitating their religious and national restoration. Through Cyrus, Persia became an unexpected, powerful instrument of redemption, a channel through which God's promises to his people would be fulfilled. The chest and arms of silver had indeed replaced the head of gold, but with a purpose far grander than mere conquest. Daniel's visions continued to unveil the future of Persia with remarkable precision. In one vision, Persia was depicted as a mighty bear, raised up on one side, with 3 ribs in its mouth. These ribs are widely understood to represent the 3 major kingdoms that Persia conquered and devoured: Lydia, Babylon, and Egypt, solidifying its vast empire. The image conveyed power, ferocity, and an insatiable appetite. In another profound vision, Daniel saw a ram with 2 horns, one higher than the other. This ram charged westward, northward, and southward, and no beast could stand before it. This symbolism vividly described the Medo-Persian Empire, the 2 horns representing Media and Persia, with Persia the higher horn eventually dominating the partnership. The ram's conquests mirrored the historical expansion of the empire, which indeed moved aggressively in those very directions. These prophetic images were not merely descriptive. They were affirmations of God's meticulous plan, revealing that even the rise and fall of empires, the actions of powerful kings, and the very destiny of nations like Persia were all part of a divinely orchestrated narrative. Persia, the bear, the ram, had a preordained role, not just as a conqueror, but as a pivotal player in the unfolding story of salvation. It had, against all expectations, become a temporary sanctuary, a means of grace, and a testament to God's ability to use anyone, anywhere, to achieve his purposes. From the ancient settlements of Madai and Elam, through initial conflict with Abraham, to its stunning transformation into an instrument of God's redemptive plan under Cyrus. Persia's early biblical journey is a saga of profound twists and divine interventions. It shows us a nation at first seemingly an antagonist, then becoming a crucial ally, shaping the very course of sacred history. But this is only the beginning of Persia's incredible story. Its destiny is far from concluded, with further challenges and even greater roles yet to unfold, revealing even deeper layers of its unique purpose in God's grand design. What further trials and triumphs await this ancient land? How will its destiny continue to intertwine with God's people? Join us in Part 2 as we delve deeper into the fortress and shield that Persia became, and the wise men who followed a star. Welcome back as we journey further into the astonishing biblical destiny of Iran, ancient Persia. In our last exploration, we witnessed Persia's rise from the ancient settlements of Madai and Elam through initial conflict to its pivotal role as God's chosen instrument to free his people from Babylonian exile. We saw how a pagan king, Cyrus, was divinely appointed to rebuild the temple, making Persia a temporary sanctuary, a means of grace, and a testament to God's ability to use anyone, anywhere, to achieve his purposes. But Persia's story, rich with twists and turns, was far from over. Centuries later, the stage was set for another dramatic chapter, one that would cement Persia's role as a true fortress and shield for God's people. This era unfolds in the vibrant, tension-filled narrative of the Book of Esther, a powerful testament to divine providence working through human courage. Within the vast Achaemenid Persian Empire, imagine the opulence and power of King Ahasuerus's court in Susa, the Persian capital. His empire stretched from India to Ethiopia, encompassing 127 provinces. Within this immense realm, a sinister plot began to brew, orchestrated by Haman, a high-ranking official consumed by pride and a deep-seated hatred for the Jewish people. Haman devised a genocidal decree sanctioned by the king to annihilate all Jews throughout the empire. This was not merely a threat, it was a legally binding edict, sealed with the king's signet ring, a death sentence for an entire nation. Yet, unbeknownst to Haman, a young Jewish woman named Hadassah, known as Esther, had risen to become queen of Persia. Guided by her wise cousin, Mordecai, Esther found herself in an impossible position. To intervene meant risking her life, for approaching the king unsummoned was punishable by death. But Mordecai's words echoed with eternal truth. And who knows, but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this? Esther, with incredible courage, chose not to remain silent. She embraced her destiny, declaring, "If I perish, I perish." Through fasting, prayer, and strategic wisdom, she unveiled Haman's wicked scheme, exposing his treachery to the king. The tables turned dramatically. Haman was executed on the very gallows he had prepared for Mordecai, and a new decree was issued, empowering the Jews to defend themselves against their attackers. In this profound moment, the Persian Empire, through its queen, became the instrument of salvation for God's people. It was a fortress protecting them from annihilation, a shield against the forces of hatred. Persia, a pagan empire, was once again used by God to preserve the lineage through which the Messiah would eventually come. This story is a powerful reminder that God's hand is never shortened, even in the most perilous times, and He can use anyone, even a seemingly secular power, to achieve His divine purposes. It transformed a nation from a mere conqueror into an unexpected guardian, deeply intertwining its fate with the unfolding saga of redemption. But Persia's unique connection to the coming Messiah didn't end there. Centuries passed, and the world awaited the fulfillment of ancient prophecies. When the long-awaited birth of the Messiah finally occurred, who were among the first Gentile worshippers to recognize and adore him? They were the Magi, wise men from the East, often believed to have come from the very heart of the Medo-Persian Empire, modern-day Iran. These Magi were not mere astrologers. They were likely scholars, astronomers, and possibly even custodians of ancient knowledge, including the prophecies that Daniel, the great prophet, had left behind during his time in Persia. Daniel, who had served under both Babylonian and Persian kings, had prophesied about the coming Messiah, the Anointed One. It is entirely plausible that his writings, preserved and studied by these wise men, prepared them for this momentous event. Imagine their journey, following a miraculous star, traversing vast deserts and treacherous landscapes, driven by an unshakable conviction that a new king had been born. They arrived in Jerusalem, inquiring, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose, and have come to worship him." Their pilgrimage culminated in Bethlehem, where they knelt before the infant Jesus, offering him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh, symbols of his royalty, divinity, and future sacrifice. Here, once again, Persia played a unique and glorious role, not as a conqueror, not as a liberator, but as a worshipper. Representatives from this ancient land were among the first Gentiles to acknowledge and submit to the newborn King of Kings, fulfilling a prophecy that nations would come to his light. It is a beautiful testament to the universal reach of God's grace. and a poignant echo of Persia's destiny, from antagonist to liberator to worshipper. However, the biblical narrative of Persia, or modern-day Iran, does not conclude with this act of worship. As history marches forward and we approach the latter days, the prophetic spotlight once again shines on this ancient land, revealing a future role that is both sobering and profoundly significant. Fast forward thousands of years from the time of Abraham and centuries from the birth of Christ. The Bible's end-time prophecies, particularly in the book of Ezekiel, speak of a formidable coalition of nations that will gather in the last days to rise against Israel. And among the prominent names listed in this powerful confederacy is Persia. Ezekiel 38 and 39 describe a massive invasion led by Gog, of the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. This coalition includes nations such as Cush, modern-day Sudan, Ethiopia, Libya, Gomer, parts of Turkey, Europe, Togarmah, parts of Turkey, and significantly, Persia. This ancient name, representing modern-day Iran, is explicitly mentioned as a key player in this momentous end-time conflict. The prophecy details how these nations, driven by a desire for plunder and conquest, will come against the land of Israel, described as unwalled villages and a land of unwalled towns. Their intent is to seize spoil and make war against God's chosen people. This vision paints a stark picture of a future confrontation where ancient Persia, now Iran, will stand with a powerful alliance against Israel. Yet, the prophecy also makes it abundantly clear that this invasion will not succeed. It will be met with divine judgment of unprecedented scale. God Himself declares, "I will turn you around and put hooks in your jaws, and I will bring you out. I will bring you against my land, so that the nations may know me when I am sanctified in you, O Gog, before their eyes." This judgment will be so cataclysmic that it will serve as a global demonstration of God's power and sovereignty, revealing His holiness to all nations. Mountains will collapse, the earth will shake, and a devastating plague, hailstones, fire, and brimstone will descend upon the invading forces. The sheer magnitude of this divine intervention will leave no doubt about. Who controls the destinies of nations? This end-time prophecy of Persia's involvement in the Gog and Magog war presents a challenging and complex aspect of its biblical destiny. It speaks of a future confrontation and a profound judgment. However, the story of Persia, even in its end-time context, contains a remarkable thread of hope and an opportunity for redemption. Remember Elam, one of the original sons of Noah whose descendants settled in ancient Persia. The prophet Jeremiah, who also spoke of Elam's role in punishing Babylon, delivered another powerful prophecy concerning this ancient people. In Jeremiah 49-39, God declares, "But in the latter days I will restore the fortunes of Elam." This is a promise of restoration, a glimmer of hope even amidst prophecies of judgment. It suggests that despite its future role in a coalition against Israel, and the subsequent divine judgment, Elam, representing a significant part of ancient Persia, will ultimately experience a restoration. This prophecy points to God's enduring mercy and His ultimate desire for reconciliation and redemption for all peoples, even those who have historically stood in opposition. The journey of Persia from the sons of Noah through conflict with Abraham, its rise as an empire, its role as a liberator and protector, its wise men worshipping the Messiah, and its predicted end-time involvement is a narrative unlike any other. It is a testament to God's intricate plan, His sovereign control over history, and His unwavering purpose to bring about His will, often through the most unexpected means. From the ancient Medes and Elamites to the mighty Medo-Persian Empire, and finally to modern-day Iran, this land has been etched into the very fabric of biblical prophecy, its destiny unfolding across millennia. It serves as a powerful reminder that every nation, every people, has a place in God's grand design. But what does this complex destiny ultimately mean for us today? How do these ancient prophecies speak to the heart of humanity's ongoing search for purpose and redemption? Join us in Part 3 as we explore the enduring lessons and profound implications of Persia's unique journey, from Genesis to its ultimate restoration. Welcome back. As we stand on the precipice of understanding Persia's incredible journey, from the earliest pages of Genesis to the very threshold of end-time prophecy, we confront profound questions. What does this complex destiny ultimately mean for us today? How do these ancient prophecies speak to the heart of humanity's ongoing search for purpose and redemption? In Part 2, we left off with a glimmer of astonishing hope. Jeremiah's prophecy in chapter 49 verse 39, where God declares, "But in the latter days I will restore the fortunes of Elam." This is not a mere footnote. It is a divine declaration, a beacon shining through the mists of future conflict. It reminds us that even for nations whose paths seem destined for opposition, God's ultimate plan often includes a profound opportunity for reconciliation and restoration. Consider the depth of this promise. Elam, one of the original sons of Noah, whose descendants first settled in the land that would become Persia, and whose people were the first recorded to attack Abraham, God's chosen one. This same Elam, part of the ancient fabric of Iran, is promised a restoration in the latter days. This isn't just about a physical rebuilding. It speaks to a spiritual renewal, a reclaiming of destiny, a turning back to the source of all life and purpose. It suggests that even after facing divine judgment in the end-time scenario described in Ezekiel, there is a future for Elam, a future shaped by God's enduring mercy. This prophetic thread of restoration is a testament to the boundless nature of God's love and His unwavering commitment to redeem. It tells us that no nation, no people, no individual is ever truly beyond the reach of His grace. Even when paths diverge, even when choices lead to conflict, the divine hand continues to weave possibilities for return, for healing, for a new beginning. Let us now reflect on the entirety of Persia's biblical narrative, a tapestry woven with threads of conflict, liberation, protection, and worship, ultimately leading to this promise of restoration. From the very beginning, with the descendants of Noah, Madai, the Medes, and Elam, the Elamites, settling the ancient lands, Persia was marked by divine foresight. Its story began not in obscurity, but in the very lineage that repopulated the earth after the flood. Then came the early conflict, Elam's attack on Abraham, a stark reminder of humanity's capacity for opposition. Yet, even in this, we see God's sovereignty. He allowed this early challenge, only to demonstrate his power to protect his chosen, and to establish the covenant that would shape history. Centuries later, the prophecies of Isaiah and Jeremiah foretold that God would use the Medes and Elamites to punish the mighty Babylon, the head of gold. This was a pagan nation, yet it became an instrument in the divine orchestra, playing a crucial role in bringing down a tyrannical empire. This act alone speaks volumes about God's ability to orchestrate history, using even the most unlikely players to fulfill his purposes. And then, the pivotal moment, Cyrus the Great, a pagan Persian king, chosen by God before his birth. As prophesied by Isaiah, Cyrus was not merely a conqueror, he was an instrument of redemption. He liberated the Jewish people from Babylonian exile, not for political gain, but because God stirred up his spirit. He issued a decree allowing them to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their temple. Imagine the magnitude. A foreign king, unaware of the God of Israel, yet acting as his shepherd, fulfilling prophecies, and setting his people free. Persia, once an adversary, became a liberator, a testament to God's incredible power to turn hearts and redirect destinies. Daniel's visions further cemented Persia's place in prophecy. The Medo-Persian Empire, represented as the chest and arms of silver, succeeding Babylon. The bear with 3 ribs, signifying its conquests of Lydia, Babylon, and Egypt. The ram with 2 horns, one higher than the other, symbolizing Media and Persia, with Persia dominating. These vivid images are not just historical predictions. They are profound affirmations of God's absolute foreknowledge and control over the rise and fall of empires, a divine narrative unfolding precisely as he declared. In the timeless story of Esther, Persia became a fortress and a shield. A Jewish queen, Esther, chosen by Providence, and her cousin Mordecai, stood against the genocidal plot of Haman. In the king's palace, in the heart of the Persian Empire, God's people was saved from annihilation. Persia, through its institutions and even its pagan king, became the very instrument of their salvation, a protector of the covenant people. And then, the beautiful, mystical moment of the Magi. Wise men from the east, quite possibly from the Medo-Persian Empire, guided by a star, were among the very first to recognize and worship the newborn Messiah. Could it be that Daniel's prophecies, preserved and studied by these learned men, guided their quest? They brought gifts fit for a king, bowing down before the infant Jesus, offering the first Gentile worship to the Son of God. Persia, through its wise men, offered its homage to the King of Kings, a profound act of faith and recognition that transcended cultural and religious boundaries. Finally, we arrive at the end-time prophecies, where Persia, now modern-day Iran, is named as part of a coalition that will rise against Israel. A challenging, sobering prophecy. Yet it is within this very context that the promise of Elam's restoration shines brightest. It tells us that even amidst scenarios of judgment, God's mercy is ever present, his plan for redemption still active. What does this extraordinary journey of Persia, from Genesis to its ultimate restoration, teach us? Firstly, it underscores God's absolute sovereignty over all nations and all of history. No nation, no empire, no people group is outside of his divine plan. He raises up and brings down. He uses the willing and the unwilling, the pagan, and the righteous, to accomplish his eternal purposes. He sees the end from the beginning, and every twist and turn of history is part of his grand design. Secondly, it reveals the intricate and often surprising ways God works. He doesn't always choose the obvious or the seemingly righteous instruments. He used a pagan king, Cyrus, to free his people. He used a foreign empire, Persia, to protect them. He even allowed a future opposition, only to offer a promise of restoration. This teaches us to look beyond human perceptions and trust in God's higher wisdom and his mysterious ways. Thirdly, and most powerfully, it speaks to God's enduring mercy and his desire for the redemption of all humanity. The promise of Elam's restoration is a profound message of hope. It declares that even nations with a history of conflict, even those prophesied to stand in opposition, are not destined for eternal condemnation without an opportunity for return. God's heart is for all peoples, and his grace extends to the furthest corners of the earth. The story of Iran, ancient Persia, is not just a historical account. It is a living testament to God's unwavering faithfulness, his limitless power, and his profound love. It challenges us to see beyond the headlines, beyond geopolitical tensions, and to remember the ancient prophecies that speak of a divine plan for every nation. A plan that ultimately culminates in restoration and redemption. As we conclude this journey, let us carry with us the profound truth that God is working in the world, in every nation, in every heart. He is calling all people to himself, offering purpose, hope, and the ultimate restoration. The destiny of Persia, etched in the sacred texts, is a powerful reminder that God's story for humanity is one of ultimate triumph, grace, and an enduring promise of redemption for all who will turn to him. May the incredible journey of Iran, ancient Persia, inspire us to look for God's hand in every corner of our world, and to never cease believing in the transformative power of his love and his ultimate plan for restoration for all. As we come to the end of this journey through biblical references to Persia, one thing becomes clear. The Bible does not speak about nations merely to predict their rise or fall, but to reveal patterns of human pride, power, repentance, and consequence. Persia, known today as Iran, was once portrayed as an instrument of God's purpose, a nation used to shape history, yet never above moral accountability. Its story reminds us that no empire, no ideology, and no generation exists outside the boundaries of divine principles. History moves forward, but human nature remains strikingly the same. The deeper lesson here is not about Iran alone. It is about how strength without humility leads to collapse, and how influence without wisdom invites judgment. The Bible consistently shows that nations and individuals alike are tested not by how powerful they become, but by how they use that power applied to our lives today. This truth is sobering and practical. Each of us holds influence over our families, our decisions, our values. Living with integrity, humility, and awareness of consequence is not ancient advice. It is timeless survival wisdom. Before we close, I'd like to ask you a simple question. Do you believe ancient biblical messages still have meaning in today's world? Please politely share your thoughts in the comments, so everyone can reflect on different viewpoints together. If you found this content thoughtful and meaningful. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Your support gives us the motivation to continue creating deeper, more insightful content in future videos.